Hi, we're back on Born Before 64 with Barbara Everett Heintz and her brother Robert Everett. And I have to say that it's such a pleasure having both of you. And you know, it's funny because my one brother and I are very, very close. And you know, I can remember when I took him everywhere when he was a baby. So it was just the opposite, Robert. Do you remember her as a special child?
Actually, I don't have a whole lot of memories of Barbara as a child, and I hate to admit that, but with the age span and the life we lived, in fact, I asked her today what year she started to school, for I couldn't remember her being in school, and it just turns out the year she started to school was the year I left.
Right.
So I don't remember much about Barbara's childhood at all. I'm sorry.
Right. So when did you become really close, would you say?
Well,
we're always
always close.
Did you write to each other a lot?
We visited each other 2 or 3 times a year through the years, and of course she was growing up whenever I would go home for vacations, and that's one thing about all of our siblings that I am really proud of. We've all been able to stay pretty close to each other, and we keep track of each other pretty good.
Well, you know, it's amazing because I grew up in a big family of 7 children, and I had 5 brothers, and I think I was closer. I've always been closer to men than I have been to women, for the simple reason that I could be frank with my brothers and open with my brothers, where my sister, I had to tiptoe around the tulips. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah. Well, with my brother being 6 years older than I am,
right.
Growing up, he and I didn't have a lot of relationship together. He was.
Now, was he the one that moved away and went to the service?
Yes, ma'am, he was. And then I'm more than 4 years older than my oldest sister, and I was kind of like her. She was kind of caught up in the middle by herself, and I was like an only child there for a spell. I mean, I wasn't close enough to him in age to be close to him, and then with my sister, I was too far ahead of her to be close to her.
Now, I have a question for you, because if I remember reading the prologue a little bit, twice or 3 times, didn't you say in the prologue, when your mom was going to have another baby? Oh no, not again. Can't she stop doing that?
In fact, I'm sure it was my one sister, and the doctor had to walk to the foot of the hill on the mountain to see Mother after about a week or something like that, and he asked me what I thought about the new baby sister. I told him, take her back.
Well, listen, I want you to know that I told my mom no more kids. I'd had enough, because I felt like I was a mother. So what did you wanted to be? You wanted to have that time with her. Is that part of it?
No.
Or you just didn't want any more family?
I think it was just something for me to say.
How old were you when you said it?
Oh, let's see, probably about 7 or 8 years old.
Let me ask you a question. Did you all have on the farm itself, were you living on the same place together? Because you were only, he had already left by the time you were a year, am I right?
Right. No, I was 3 years when we moved from Alabama to Tennessee.
Okay.
And then my brother, of course, had to take over the farm in Tennessee there for a couple of years.
You did that, right?
Yeah, well, I tried to.
You tried to.
I wasn't physically able.
Well, at 13 years old, you wouldn't have been.
A lot of stuff I didn't know, and it cost me a formal education, and after about 2.5 or 3 years of that, I just
said, I gotta go.
and I hate to use the word, but trying to run a farm and my mother telling me what to do all the time, it was like working under a dictatorship. I'm trying to do the work, but she's telling me what I got to do.
And she was alone at the time your father was already
Yes.
gone?
Yes, she was, and
It was really tough for her, don't you think?
it was very tough for her. And she was probably trying to manage everything the best way she could. For he wasn't making all that much money, and he could only send so much money home. So things were still kind of rough.
So when you went to Chicago, were you living with your dad or were you living with somebody else?
I lived with him and another man for a short period of time, and then I started boarding with a family.
And how did that feel?
I enjoyed boarding with a family because they were a nice, clean family, and then I didn't have to worry about meals being fixed or trying to clean the apartment and all that. And I was still boarding with them whenever I got married.
Right. So did you ever get a chance to go see him at all?
I really did not see him in Chicago. I would after I grew up and got married, but I was, I believe, along with my youngest sister, the only children that did not go to Chicago at some point.
Right, so you went to
visit.
D.C. instead.
Washington was where my sisters had gone because the eldest brother had made his home there, and so what we looked for in each other was a gateway to get somewhere. Just get me somewhere, Lord. And that, you know, when we would just ask the brother or sister that was a little older if we could come because we needed to get a job, and we saw no future where we were at the time.
Now, Barbara, are you the youngest? I forget.
Oh no, I'm the middle.
You're the middle
girl.
child. You're the middle child, right?
It's made more complex because of our very disabled brother that is 4 years younger than me.
Right.
It put me between my older siblings, and then I was the oldest of the younger siblings.
How many were there of you again? 5 or 6?
There was 8 of us all
Well, there
together.
were 8 of you all together.
Yeah.
Now, your brother that was underneath you, that was younger than you, is he still with us?
He is still with us, thanks to a wonderful program called Tennessee Cares. And when he became unmanageable to my parents, then we ourselves could not bring him into our home, sadly, because he acted out a great deal and was taking 24-hour care. So at first he was in a horrible institution, and my mother and my sisters that were in Atlanta were able to keep working with a group of people in Tennessee to get him into a safe, and it's a wonderful place for him. The family that takes care of him loves him, and he is now, as we might say from back home, he's very feeble now, and
That's great.
we don't know how much longer he will be with us. But
Right. And on that note, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back on Born Before 64 after these messages.
For more information on our show, check out our website at www.bornbefore64.com.